Hi, my name's Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. Today I thought we'd talk about my most anticipated reads of February, and I was going to do one of those top 21 releases of 2021, but my Goodreads 2021 release shelf is up to 163 books or something, so I couldn't narrow it down. And that's kind of scary when you think I average about 100 books a year and I read a lot of backlist. So I'm not going to get to all those books, but I still want to share them with you. So here we are today with my February most anticipated releases. So the first book for February 2nd is My Year Abroad by Chang Rae Lee. And this follows Tiller, who's just an ordinary man with an ordinary life until he meets this businessman who takes him to Asia on a business trip. And it follows all the things they get up to there. I think it's an eye-opening experience. He gets involved in a lot of things he normally wouldn't have done. I think that's the first half, and then the second half is him coming home, settling down, falling in love, and maybe how those two things intersect. I'm not sure. I've heard great things from early reviewers, so I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. Next up, we have We Can Only Save Ourselves by Alison Wisdom. And if you're like me and you like cult stories, I think this is going to be the book for you. And I struggle with cult stories. There's some I like, some I really don't like, but I have high hopes for this debut. It follows Alice, who is the girl next door, thinks she's going to be valedictorian of her high school, and the day before homecoming, she goes missing, and she turns up at the home of Wesley, who has manipulated her into moving in with him, and he has 4 other women there. I think its story goes from there. I'm not sure how it's all going to play out, but I know it's dark. I think Wesley's gaslighting, manipulative, and I think it's going to be an intense read. I also know that there's a collective voice, like all the mothers in the town, talking about Alice and what she was like and who she is. And if you've read The Mothers by Brit Bennett, it also has that collective voice, I think, of women in the church. And I didn't know if that would be something I would like, but it really adds to the narrative. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Alison Wisdom does with that. Next one is one I think so many of us are anticipating because Sadie was so well loved, and it deserved to be so well loved. I read it in summer this year. I listened to the audiobook, and it's one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. So I'll be listening to The Project by Courtney Summer on audio the day it comes out. I cannot wait. It's another book about cults. Again, I've seen some mixed reviews, but I think it's hard to live up to the masterpiece that was Sadie. So I'm going to go into it trying to separate those two. Next book on the list, coming out February 2nd, is one many of us are anticipating, and it is 400 Souls, A Community History of African America from 1619 to 2019 by Abram X. Kendi and Keisha and Blaine. They're the editors. So there are a lot of people contributing to this collection. So it spans from African American history from 1619 to 2019, and each contributor is given a 5-year span to talk about what went on for Black Americans during those years. I think it's from lawyers to poets, all contributing to this collection. I trust Abram X. Kendi with anything, so I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant. Up next, we have This Close to Okay by Lisa Cross Smith. And this follows a therapist who is driving home one day and she sees a man about to jump off a bridge, and she convinces him to come down and come home with her. I think the story takes place over the course of the weekend and the interactions between these two people, the secrets that they kept, and I think it's a life-changing experience for both of them. The next book on my list sounds like a fun one. It's Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Al Cazimano, and it obviously follows Finlay Donovan, and she is a crime writer who's struggling, and she's overheard talking to her agent in a restaurant about her crime novel, but somebody thinks that she's a contract killer and hires her to take care of her husband. And the story plays out from there, and I'm sure it's going to be a bunch of hijinks and hilarity. I have this feeling that's going to be sort of campy and fun, so looking forward to that one. Then we have Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. And this is one I don't know too much about, except that it's set in space, it's a space opera, and it's a male-male romance, and it's from Tor. Is it just me, or does Tor have the best books? So I usually trust their releases, and this one sounds fantastic. The next book on my list is actually probably my most anticipated release of 2021, but I'm nervous because earlier reviewers haven't been loving it. I saw Emily Fox talk about it and she didn't love it, but that is A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel, who wrote my favorite series of all time, The Themis Files. So I'm hoping I love it, but I'm cautiously optimistic. And I'm really confused about the synopsis, so I thought I would just read it here to you because I don't know how to summarize it anyway. So it says, always run, never fight, preserve the knowledge, survive at all costs, take them to the stars. Over 99 identical generations, Mia's family has shaped human history to push them to the stars, make brutal, wrenching choices, and sacrificing countless lives. Her turn comes at the dawn of the rocketry. Her mission to lure Wernher von Braun away from the Nazi Party and into the American rocket program, and secure the future of the space race. But Mia's family is not the only group pushing the levers of history. An even more ruthless enemy lurks behind the scenes. A darkly satirical first contact thriller, as seen through the eyes of a woman who makes progress possible and the men who are determined to stop them. See, like, that sounds amazing. I'm really sad that people aren't loving it, but I still hope that I do. And I love the speculative aspect of it. So I'm high hopes. The last one coming out February 2nd is How the One-Armed Sister Swept Her House by Sherry Jones. And I was actually sent this on audio from Libro FM. So a lot of people I know were sent it as well, and the early reviews have been incredible. I'm just looking at part of the synopsis on Goodreads, and it's definitely going to be a difficult read. It says, a new mother whose baby is found lifeless on the beach, a woman torn between two worlds and incapacitated by grief, and two men driven by desperation and greed who attempt a crime that will risk their freedom and their lives. So looking forward to that, but no, I need to be emotionally prepared. Now we're moving on to February 9th. And the first one is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. And this has been on so many people's most anticipated list, and I cannot wait for it. I've been really getting into YA fantasy lately. And this one follows Decca, who is part of a community where you participate in a blood ceremony. And if your blood bleeds red, that means you can join the village. And if it bleeds gold, it means that your blood is impure and is connected to demons. And at this ceremony, Nika's blood bleeds gold. And she's confronted by a woman who says, you can stay here and face the consequences, or you can come with me and join a team of girls who are similar to you and fight the Emperor. So it's kind of an easy choice for Nika, and she decides to join the woman. We have two more books for February 9th. So the next one is The Iron Raven by Julie Kagawa. Now, Julie Kagawa wrote my favorite vampire series, the Blood of Eden series, which I think is so underrated. So I've been wanting to read more from her. I read her Iron Fae series years ago, and I know she's had so many popular series released since. But again, just getting back into fantasy. It's a retelling of the Midsummer's Night Dream, and it follows Puck and Puck's adventures. So that sounds fantastic. And I'm thinking about doing a reading vlog where I read retellings. So this might be on that list. The last one for February 9th is A Pho Love Story by Lonely. And this follows competing families who each own neighborhood pho restaurants. And their children have a connection that's more than friendship. And I don't know if they keep it a secret or how that plays out. But I've been seeing some really great reviews. And it's February, so I'm going to need to read a few romances. Two books for February 16th, and one I've already read, and that is First Comes Like by Alicia Ray. And this is the third book in the Modern Love series, and I haven't read the first two in the series, and I really don't think that you have to appreciate it. This follows Gia, and she's been talking to a famous soap opera star from India named Dave, and she goes to meet him, and it's a catfishing trope. She realizes that he's not the man that she's been talking to, but they do have a connection. The story kind of goes from there. Gia's Muslim, so she has certain boundaries that she's not willing to cross. And I just loved how Dave is so respectful of those. And it's always in the back of his mind, even more than it is in Gia's. So he's always cognizant of how things are going to look. And it's just really sweet. And I love how much he respects her job. I think as a beauty influencer, she feels people are always looking down on her. All her sisters are doctors. And she just feels like nobody takes her seriously, but Dave does right for the jump, and it's so great. I just loved it so much. And the last book for February 16th is Amelia Bridge by Ashley Schumacher, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I like books about books and people who love books, so this is about Amelia and her best friend Jenna, and they have a shared love for this book series, but they have some sort of falling out. I think one of them is going to meet the author and the other isn't, and they stop talking after this. And then Jenna is sadly killed in a car accident before they can make amends. And then Amelia receives a rare edition of this blood book on her doorstep, and she thinks it's sent from Jenna. So this leads her on a journey. She ends up in Michigan and meeting the author of this series, and the story goes on from there. We have 4 books for February 23rd, and that's it. So the first one is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. And you know what I appreciate about this book is that it follows a woman named Grace who's getting a PhD in astronomy, and I just think we need more books about women in STEM. But Grace feels the weight of her father's expectations, and I don't know that she loves her field and that this is truly what she wants to do. And then she goes to Vegas on a girls' trip, and it's so out of character for her, but she marries a woman that she meets there. And then they move to New York, and I think she starts to realize what she really wants in her life. And I really appreciate a good coming-of-age story, especially of somebody who's not in their teens, somebody in their 20s or 30s, because we're always evolving. We're always coming to age, as they say. And I think it's an important message, and it's going to be an incredible book. And then the next book we have is actually one I've already read, and it's The Initial Insult by Mindy McGinnis. And I love Mindy McGinnis. The Female of the Species is on my favorite shelf. Be Not Far From Me, I listened to it last year. I really liked it. And The Initial Insult, I liked. It's not my favorite, but I do think so many people are going to love it. And especially if you like Edgar Allan Poe, you'll probably get more of the references than I do. And it's dark in a way that I expect from Mindy McGinnis, but maybe even darker than she's ever done before. And I didn't realize going in that it was 2 books. I think it's a duology, and the next one's coming out soon. So you're left with a lot of questions, but I still will pick up a sequel because I'm curious enough to know what's happening. And then we have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. And Sarah Gailey is an author who I've been wanting to read more from. I read River of Teeth many years ago and really enjoyed it, and I don't know why I haven't continued on with that series. But The Echo Wife is really high on my list. I think it sounds amazing. The synopsis is very vague, so all I know about it is it's about a replica or a clone that is having an affair with its creator's husband. And I think the story kind of goes from there, so that's all I need to know. That intrigues me enough. The next one is one I've started. It's not my usual genre, so it's taking me longer to get into, but I really am enjoying it. And it's A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. And it's a fae story, which I don't typically love, but the way she's doing it, it feels original enough. The characters are really interesting and dynamic. There's a lot of characters to keep track of, but I'm attached to them all, and I'm just loving their interactions. And the fact that it's set in Toronto, and I'm Canadian, I live close to Toronto, really adds another layer of reality for me, because I recognize the places she's talking about. It just feels so real. I'm just really looking forward to seeing where the story is going and being able to talk about it with you all once I'm finished. The book in this video is called Some Other Now by Sarah Everett. And all I know about it is that it's described as This Is Us for teens, which tells me it's going to break my heart. I'm going to have Kleenex ready. But I'm going to love it. It's going to break my heart in the best way possible, just like This Is Us does. Can't wait to read it. That's it for my February most anticipated releases. Let me know if any of these are on your radar, or if I missed any books that you think I should read or add, because I'm always adding books to that Goodreads shelf, and I really hope to read at least a few of these in February, so I'll let you know my thoughts of them. Thanks again for your time. Bye.